Today's video is going to be a double page layout featuring some photos I took. We visited St. Catherine's Chapel on the Rock in Allenspark, Colorado. So, as you can see, I'm still working on my Colorado trip. And this is a coffee shop that's on that same property. It's like that same stone as the church. It's a different building. It's not in the chapel, but right there. And here you can see that little statue up on that mountain. And we had a matcha, an Americano, and some scones. The inside of that coffee shop was so cool with all those stones. And they had like pictures that they had taken of the chapel and just super pretty. So here's St. Catherine, Chapel of the Rock. It really is just a chapel on a rock. The inside's fairly small, but there is like a little loft area too that we went up, and the stained glass is so pretty. And then there's like this little pathway going all the way around. I loved how the sun was reflecting on that window, and you can see the mountains in the background there. There's me. So these were all vertical pictures, and I printed them all 3x4s without the white frame. So I'll add my own white frame going around with white cardstock. The 4x6 I did print with a white frame. As you can see here, I have the Beautiful Gallery Designer Series paper on my desk. And this really is beautiful. Beautiful gallery. I actually bought this after I took these photos. I knew that these colors would go perfectly with the stone. So I was super excited about that. I like how these pinks and peaches kind of tie in. So we'll just briefly go through this. This brown one works perfectly. So we'll just briefly go through this paper here. I do already have them all rotated. You get 4 of the same color, same pattern, and then they're double-sided. So I already flipped those all around here. But you get like this nice canvas texture. And then a lot of them have scenes on the other side. So a more basic neutral and then a scene. This one I want to save for another layout. I have an idea for that. It looks kind of like a cityscape, a city satellite view. I love that brush look. This one will probably make an appearance on this layout. So pretty. Look at that blue. And if you tie it in with the back side, so pretty. And I love that the artists actually come up with these designs at Stampin' Up! And then they turn them into paper, into cardstock. So I love that it is actually art. Look at this one. So much detail. So cool. It almost makes me not want to cut into that. And then this one does actually have more of a scene on the other side too. So some of them have more of a basic pattern on the back side and then a scene on the other side. This one would make a super quick and easy card if you just cut out that and put that onto a card front. I'm leaning more towards these kind of brushed textures for this layout. I think that one will look good. There weren't really any flowers. You can see that there were trees, and this, I'm not sure what those little red things are, but they're not flowers. I think they're like in the stone or something. I'm not really sure, but I don't want to draw attention to those. But yeah, mostly just trees, mountains, green grass. There weren't really flowers in the picture, so I don't really want to accent that, but you could always bring in flowers. I don't know what my embellishments are going to look like yet. That one's really cool. All right, this one might tie in very nicely too. So let's clear this up, and I'm going to bring in my Versamats. I normally build my layouts on white cardstock, but I'm not sure that I want to bring in white for my backgrounds, or if I want to bring in kind of a cream or a gray. I'm not quite sure which papers I'll bring in yet. I'm thinking maybe this color palette. So I want to wait, and I don't know that I want to build on white this time. We'll see. I might change my mind, but I'm thinking this is my photo, my focal photo. And I just printed it larger because it was my favorite. And then the rest I did 3x4s, and they were all portrait. They just happened to be portrait landscape. So I'm thinking that here, and then like my title, some embellishing, maybe some strips of those designer series papers going along the top and bottom. And then over on this side, I don't quite know the layout yet, but I thought I could just keep it super simple. I don't know. I don't know that I'll be able to fit, like they'd be really crammed with the white in between. And that just makes it look really busy. So I could bring in flip flaps, and that would help kind of break it up if we did like, these are all the coffee shop. I don't know what, this one's really colorful, so I don't know that I want that one on top. So I could maybe hide that one and do kind of that. This one's really colorful too, so maybe hide that one. And then I could do something like that. And then I could have my journaling here, or I could do my journaling down below. I could also do one more flip flap and just keep it at 6, and then do my journaling under one of the flip flaps. So then I could kind of spread these out more. In my head, I was kind of picturing, I don't know, something like that. And then I could have an embellishment cluster here. So then only having 5 on this side, which then I could do, like 2 over here, and then have 2, 3, 4, 5. I do like that. I have 3 here, and in a flip flap, 1 goes down and 2 goes in the flip flap. So a pile of 3 would be 1 flip flap. And then here I have 3. And then these all just have 1. So my journaling would not fit under a flip flap if I did this, but it could fit here. It could go over on this side somehow. I like that, and that gives me some room to do something, journaling or embellishing here. My title could go here with a little bit of embellishing here. Okay, let's pick out our papers. I had mentioned I want to stick with this kind of color palette, so I'm thinking I want to do a lot of the patterns. I think I want to do, oh, we could even bring in some black and white maybe. I don't know. But I think I want to bring in several of the patterns and kind of do a strip at the top and a strip at the bottom. These are the ones I chose. So I chose this brown color. I thought it went really nice with that stone and kind of pulled that out. And then I brought in this bluer one. I thought it kind of pulled in over here like these gray tones of the stone. I have this darker gray one, and then that color palette, and then I thought another blue one would tie in nice with that one. So this one has a little more of like a tile pattern rather than the canvas. Do you see the difference? So I started cutting them at 2-inch strips. Since I have 6 patterns, I thought I could do 2-inch strips going across. And then since it's a 6x6 paper pack, I just figured, why not cut it at 3? I know like here, it's going to be hidden behind my pictures. So I wouldn't need to do 3, but I figured let's just cut them in half because I know I want it to continue onto the bottom. So I'm going to cut all of these 2x3. I kind of chose this pattern here because I wanted this blue kind of in line with this photo so that it really accents the blues of the stone here. And then I just kind of wanted to separate the colors. So I don't know that I love these 2 side by side, but I'm not sure where else I would put them. Maybe do separate those a little bit more. I do like that. And then reversing it, so doing this one, you know, keeping the pattern going so that the two darks aren't next to each other. So then that's the same one, but it's so much darker over here. So maybe we'll do the light on top and have it kind of ombre down. Okay, and then, so then it would be this one, and then this one, and then this one. And then I'm just going to repeat that. I want the same piece up above so it looks like it continues. I'm not quite sure how I want to do the center yet. We're just gonna let it evolve, let it do its thing. So I'll go ahead and pick out some background paper. I'm really leaning towards a gray now to bring in this kind of color. I don't think I want to bring in too much of that kind of pink salmon, but I'm thinking that gray might look nice. This is gray granite, and I actually think I'm really liking that. I think it'll look good once I get these put on white. It won't blend in so much. See how this one has that white border? I think that looks really nice. And then I can bring in some of the lighter tones and whatnot into my embellishing. So I'm going to build on gray granite, and that is the dark side. The cardstock is two-toned, so I'm using the dark side of that because I thought it matched this gray better in here. Before I adhere anything down, I am going to ink around it with gray granite, just since it matches that background. I'm going to ink around each one of these. And then I'm going to set those aside because it will transfer onto this. I got the designer series papers down, and now I'm just working on getting my photos adhered, and I just eyeball it. So I want these two at the same height. So I'm just, you know, eyeballing those two together. Let me know in the comments below if you've been to Chapel on the Rock. We thought it was a fun little stop. I had seen it when I was Googling the area and seeing what was, you know, near Allen Spark, and came across this. It's one of the first things that comes up, and we actually happened to just drive by it. We didn't intentionally do it at this time in the day, but we were driving by, and I'm like, oh, hey, that looks like what I was, you know, seeing on Google. And so we decided to pull off, and we didn't know there was a coffee shop, so that was a happy accident. We got some coffee and some scones, and yeah, there were hummingbirds. That was our first hummingbird experience. We sat down and had some coffee, and the hummingbirds came and joined us, and so fun. The chapel and rock are from alphabet die from my stash, but the on the is the mini alphabet. That's available through Stampin'Up. This one's no longer available. So I'm going to do Chapel on the Rock, but I was actually playing around with my Enamel Effects the other day, and I just used my water brush and painted it onto this white piece of scrap paper. And this is the copper one, the more bronzy red tone. There's also gold and silver in this set. And I'm wondering if the gold would actually tie in a little bit better to some of these. This one doesn't look bad with this one. So what I'm thinking is I could have done this first and then cut it out, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to use this alphabet set, and I wasn't sure if it would fit properly here. So I cut that out first, just out of white, but I can brush it on now, and I'm wondering if I want to use this tone or the gold, or even the silver. The silver would work too, since I have some of the grays. I'll do a couple more test pieces, and then I can kind of lay them here to see what it'll look like. This almost looks like this pattern paper here. I kind of like how that ties it over. So I'm gonna do some silver and gold on some scraps and see which color I like best. So I have my two white pieces here. One for silver, one for gold. I have my water brush and my Enamel Effects. And hopefully I don't get it on my project. Okay, so let's start with the silver first. I'm just going to put, you know, enough on my silicone mat here. And then I don't want to add too much water, just enough to kind of get it malleable, get it able to be spread. And then I like how the brush kind of like fanning it out. I kind of like that look. Okay, this one is super light. I can already tell. I don't think, even if I did it a little thicker, I think my background is too dark. You won't be able to see it. It matches too well. Can you even see the... It just kind of adds a little bit of shine. Once it's spread out like that, it's... I mean, I could add more and layer it and get it darker, but I think this is going to be too light for what I'm looking for. So we'll set that aside, and I'm going to clean all this up and then try the gold out. Okay, I'm ready to try out the gold here. And I'll be more cautious and, you know, try a little harder on the real deal. This is just a sample to get an idea of what it'll look like, and I can kind of keep layering. And I do like that one too. That one really brings out like the tans, whereas this one brings out more of the reds. I could also add a little ink to the silver. So I could add some blue ink. I could add some darker, I don't know. Let's maybe play around with that a little bit. I think I found what I like. Can you guys see that? I think I like that. It brings in more of that salmon-y pink kind of color. So this is how I did it. So see how this one's more pink? This one's more bronzy. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is how I did it. Okay, so I have a piece of scrap paper here, and that's my letter. And then I'm just gonna bring in a little bit of washi tape here and tape down this side. I'm gonna have my streaks going this direction. So I'm gonna start over on this side, and this side will be white. So I'm just washi taping it down so that it doesn't move on me. And then I took some peach ink. That's not even the ink, okay. And I'm gonna put that down onto my silicone mat. And it creates a huge spot, but I'm just gonna put the, if I had a little ink spot, I think that would work better, but this is what I have. So, and then we're just gonna add some of our silver and then mix it all together. And I'm not adding any water. It's not mixing real good, so I am going to add just a smidge of water, but I don't want to go crazy. There, now see how it's like mixing better? I'm going to try to scoop some of this over. Okay. So now I can come over here and I'm just going to flick it on from the side. And I'm gonna leave those streaks kind of. Can you guys even see it? I feel like it's so light, but I like it. And then I can kind of clean off the brush a little. And once it's dry, I might even come in with a second layer. So I'm gonna let that dry, and I have room on here to add some more letters. So I'll just washi tape another one down. I did end up bringing in a palette knife, and I was able to scoop up kind of that ink and kind of create more of a puddle for my brush to dip into. So that worked really well. I'm going to start removing these letters. I think they're pretty well dry, and I can kind of move them out of the way to get more letters down and keep on doing this technique. I'm not loving it. I don't know what it is, because I love this, so I don't know why I don't care for the title so much. But before I scrap that idea, I'm wondering if maybe bringing in a embossing folder would help. So I have this distressed tile, and I think I'm going to run all of my letters through this and see if that helps kind of bring it to life. I would recommend waiting for them to dry. These are pretty dry, so I don't think I need to worry about it transferring over. Okay, I ran my title through the embossing machine with that distressed embossing folder, and I like that so much better. It just added that extra touch it needed. I don't know. I like it. So we're gonna do Chapel on the Rock. I am going to get this area all cleaned up. I have papers everywhere. I can use my T-square ruler, my tweezers, and some Barely art glue, and I'm gonna get my title glued down here. I'm in the process of embellishing. I cut out some coordinating cardstock so it matches that blue, and I used a sprig die from my stash, but I did add some embossing to this, and I actually used the brick embossing folder. It's called the Exposed Brick 3D embossing folder, but I kind of stuck to where those speckles are and not so much of the brick. So you can see a little bit of the brick, but mostly the speckles. And I did that to all the blue sprigs. And then I added some sprigs from that brushed. And I just did a couple different varieties, and I did a couple circles and then a couple sprigs. And then I also did some vellum, which is super fun. This is the vellum from Stampin'Up. This is my first time trying it, and it's nice and thick, and I really like it. So did some vellum too, just to add a little more detail and whatnot. So I have a confession. Down in this corner, I got some of the Enamel Effects on my gray. So I am going to put a cluster down here to hide that. And I thought that I could do kind of my visual triangle like this. So have a cluster. I'm wanting to print my journaling on here. And since it's the Enamel Effects, I don't know that ink would stick if I ran this through my printer. But I bet the clear Avery shipping labels would stick to that. So I might end up going that route. We'll see. And then I'm thinking of putting my sprigs kind of around that. This one did tear off, so I do need to kind of piece that back together when I glue it. And then this one, I thought it'd be cute to kind of have the circle back behind, holding my sprigs. But then I feel like with all of this, I need something on top of my photo, kind of, you know, finishing it off. Because I don't want the sprigs, you know, the bottom of the sprigs to be seen. I need something to kind of hold those together. I thought about bringing in the Latte Love and adding some coffee cups around. We have this little one that could kind of finish them off. But this is going to be hid under a flip flap, this flip flap here, which this is of the inside of the coffee. So you can see their coffee beans back here. You can see the, you know, this is the little coffee station they had. So it would make sense to bring these little coffee cups in, but that wasn't the focal, you know, when you're looking over the page and you don't really see the details of that right away. So I feel like coffee cups might be kind of weird on there. So I didn't want to bring in flowers because there weren't any flowers. There was a hummingbird that came and saw us while we were drinking our coffee and eating our scones. A hummingbird came up to us. I am going to tell that story in my journaling. I didn't get a picture of him, but I will tell that in my journaling. So maybe hummingbirds would be cute. I don't know. I did a whole layout on hummingbirds, though, if you caught that a few videos ago. So I don't really want to do like a whole bunch of hummingbirds again. I'm going to keep going through some of my stamps and dies and see what else I can add to these clusters. As I was looking through my embellishments to find what else I wanted with the sprigs, I found this little rock that is part of like a mountain scene. So I'm like, that'd be perfect, you know, rock, chapel on the rock. So I added a rock to each of my clusters. I did a little ink blending with my blending brush and just kind of flicked some ink on it, add a little dimension. And then I did decide to bring in the Latte Love for these little coffee cups. I needed something to go over my photo. I had all of this tucked behind, so I needed a little something more there. This is the collection that the rock came from right here. So there's like that mountain scene, and then you have that little one right there. And then for the circles, I actually just used a circle from my stash. They're just little stitched circles. I did bring in the streaked dots. Look at how beautiful those are. And you'll be able to see them closer here too. But I just tucked those into my embellishments as well. I'll bring those up a little closer here. I love the vellum, the just lightness and texture of the vellum. I like the color palette of this. Usually I would have done like blues and greens and something a little more nature, but I loved the, you know, all this pattern paper and the shine of the Enamel Effects. My journaling will go right here. I do have my flip flaps ready. And as you know, if you've seen my videos before, you know I like to put them directly onto the page. So I can show you how I do that here. So for this first one, I'll start with the top one here. So I have this in so that the flap folds over. So my top picture is, you know, does that make sense? And then because it's going to flip up, this one is adhered upside down. So see that? So you want to pay attention to the orientation. Okay, so you want to make sure your picture's all the way down in the flip flap. And then we'll peel that sticky off. And that's very staticky, so I just gently put those aside. And then you'll fold that over, and I'm going to tuck mine behind my picture. And then I want to line up the photo mats. I don't want to line up the flip flap itself. I want to line up, you know, where the picture and the photo mat line up. And then give that a gentle press. You can double check your work. It looks pretty good. And then I'll come in with my bone folder and press that down, and it just disappears into that pattern paper back there. And then when I put this into my page protector, I'll just slice it right there, and this will be outside the page protector. We'll do that again down here. I love that this is going to cover up kind of the matcha color because there's no other greens other than the grass. So I like that I can kind of hide that picture behind this one. Let's flip that out of my way. And I'll slide this one behind. And then I'm just lining up the photo mats and giving it a gentle press. Looks pretty good. I'm not really running over my picture because I don't want any marks on my picture, but going around the sides, that is plenty. These are super sticky, so that is plenty to keep it on. I don't need to worry about behind my picture, you know, other than what my fingers have done. So there we go. How many pictures did we add to this layout? I feel like we fit a lot on here. We kept a nice design and have a spot for our journaling too. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to see still shots of this layout, my Instagram and Facebook are linked in the description box below, along with everything I've used today. Until next time, live a life worth scrapping. Bye!